Hello, thanks for coming along to check out another video. Today we're going back down into the centre of Rome where I'm going to be meeting up with Lauren. Lauren moved to Italy a few years ago to heal her corporate burnout after working in advertising in New York for 10 years. This time we're going to go down to the Testaccio area of Rome and I'm going to be travelling by train, so I'll see you when we get there. Some sort of pop-up market going on here. Pyramids in Rome. It's actually a tomb, Piaza Square. Through there, you just get a glimpse of the non-Catholic cemetery. That is where Shelley's grave is. Where Keats' grave is. We're just coming up to Testaccio. This is the famous market. This is where we've got our appointment. In front of Checchino, famous restaurant. Nice to see you again. You're looking great. No, you actually live in this neighborhood, do you?
3 blocks that way.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Tell me how you ended up in Rome. How did you end up in Italy?
I literally just quit my job and I moved here.
How long ago?
Maybe 7 years ago, this April. But it was off and on. We say avanti indietro because I really I don't even have a grasp of the Italian language yet. But I didn't really study Italian before I moved here. So I just basically, the last part of the puzzle, I guess, is trying to make some money and then also learn Italian. But I knew I wanted to move here. Probably, actually, want to walk through the markets that are closed. Could be really cool. I know this might be like the holiday markets that might be open tonight. Wait, let me just look.
What was it that made you want to come here anyway?
Okay, so a few things. I know the people from the United States love Italy a little bit more. I mean, everyone loves Italy. Who doesn't? But I think there's an affection that exists from the United States. Probably, for me, it's probably because there's a lot of Italian American immigrants, and we really idealize the Italian way of life and the food. But for me, I'm Italian American, so I'm third generation, and so I really felt something in my blood. Maybe I just like had a little part of me here already, or at least like my family, my foundation is here. Although I didn't have any ties, and my great grandparents had died before I was born, or like a few minutes later. And so my grandparents, they didn't even really preserve anything besides the food. The recipes they preserved, but they weren't even allowed to speak Italian inside the house because they really needed to assimilate. And it wasn't just like to fit in socially. It was like they were actually kind of penalized to speak Italian outside. But we were so far back that hello! What are you doing here?
Yes.
No. Are you?
She's iconic in Rome.
No, you are. Are you doing something?
Yeah, I was trying to make it work.
Oh.
It was broken.
Okay.
Now I have a lesson. So
A lesson?
Yeah, travel blogging here at the end.
She's the famous one.
No,
She's a travel writer, blogger, influencer, fashion. I mean, she always looks amazing. But are you working this? Are you helping?
No, they have me.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the button.
The buttons.
Yes.
When is this open? Tonight?
I think tomorrow. It's for the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, it's full of Christmas markets in town in the weekend. Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good seeing you.
Where were Now, you telling me that you're third generation Italian and you had this calling to come here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to be Italian. I was actually looking into becoming a citizen. So even before I moved here, I was like, I want to be really Italian, take it back to, you know, full circle. I did make an appointment at the consulate, but it didn't work out. But anyway, I just loved Italy. And then when I had the opportunity to study abroad, so anyway, I was in college and there was an opportunity to study abroad. So I convinced my parents that I needed to take this English class in Italy. So they're like, sure, okay. And so I stayed for only like a short winter semester. And I remember being like terrified because I had never gone abroad. I've never did anything like alone. I never took a trip alone. I mean, essentially I was with a group of 30 people from my school, but I didn't know them. Oh, I threw up on the plane. Maybe nerves, excitement. And it was the best decision I've ever made, I think, because it really, like opened me up, but also like the minute we came to Rome, as we were driving through, I remember actually passing by Piramide. And I like got a little choked up. And at that point I was like really strong New Yorker. And I was just like, what is this? Oh, it's like, I think it's a tear. But I basically had this feeling, I'm going to be back in Rome. Like, I'm going to live here one day. And it wasn't oh, I want to. It's just like, matter of factly, I'm going to live here one day. And that was it. So then I came back to the States. I graduated college, pursued a career in advertising. I like tried that for almost a decade. And then finally,
So you just up and left a job, your family, a home,
my
your
cat Puccini.
to come and live here. So that's a really strong calling.
Yeah.
And you planned for it. You didn't
Oh, yeah.
just come on a whim. You actually planned.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought it was very impulsive. I mean, everyone has heard me speaking about Italy. So the minute I came back from my first trip, and then every time I came back, because we had 10 vacation days, and me and my best friend would always go to like try to go do a new country every year, but then I would always try to like fit in Italy. So it'd be like Croatia and Italy, and then France and Italy are kind of close. So I just had to always come back here. I think I left a little bit of my heart here. So they weren't surprised, and they're like, oh, finally we can maybe stop hearing about you talking about Italy and just like go there already. But I did grapple with leaving a good paying job in New York and my friends and family and an apartment and a cat to do something really crazy, give it all up for an unknown thing.
What did you decide you wanted to do when you got here? Did you have any idea of jobs or what you could do? Had you already decided that you could work in tourism, or did it just sort of evolve naturally?
A good question. So I did plan a little bit, although I didn't even really find my place. It was my best friend who found it. So I once I made the decision, I was like, I'm just going with the flow, which is not something that we really do in certain societies in America, especially, but also me. I'm like a planner. I have to plan every minute of every day and write things to-do lists. So like the fact that I was doing this was like, this is crazy. But I knew it's all right. I budgeted. So I did it on like a very regimented schedule. I budgeted, I'm like going to be in Rome. And then I went back to my family in Calabria, and that was a beautiful experience as well. And then I was just like, I'm going to go to Sicily because I want to live there. And so I just like took my bag. I went to Sicily, and I was just going to the train station, looking at the next train. I was like, I'm going to go there. And it was the most like liberating thing. I know this sounds crazy, but like, I don't even know where I'm sleeping tonight. It's just like not having every minute of every day planned, and just following something, following your heart, following the flow of things, like basically what Italians do all the time. They don't plan and they follow the flow. The life that I left in New York, it was basically like I had no time to eat or sleep. I had to like figure out, do I want to feed my cat or take a shower tonight? And then like get up and do it all again.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. You're living in a rented apartment.
Right now, yes.
Yeah, right now. Give us an idea of how much you have to pay for rent and what sort of size you have.
Well,
admittedly, you're in the center of Rome. That's really necessary for your
me.
line of work.
Yeah.
You couldn't handle commuting.
Wow, I don't think anyone can, even with a way to transport themselves. Like the traffic here is crazy. So in Rome is a great walking city, but mainly because, I mean, to see the city, you have to walk around and get lost and blah, blah, blah. But you really need to be able to walk places because sometimes you can't rely on the public transport. So I chose to live in Testaccio. Well, it was strategic, but also like Testaccio I love. It's like the last true neighborhood in the city center of Rome. So it almost feels like, and maybe we could go a little deeper.
Yeah, let's go around.
It almost feels like a throwback and what I had wanted to do, because I came to Rome knowing that was maybe like, okay, this is a more realistic step down from New York. I couldn't go from New York to like the middle of Sicily, even though I still picture myself in that kind of a situation. I knew maybe that would be a little bit too much of a culture shock. So I picked Rome. And then also because I put out all these, what do you call, like, not feelers, but kind of, I like just told everyone I'm coming to Rome. And then all of my friends, oh, that's the other thing. So I made some Italian connections in New York, because you remember the old meetup groups?
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to an Italian language exchange, but I went to the wrong one. I went to Italian expats living in New York. And so I was just like, well, their Italian is really like another level. Like they're like speaking completely fluent. And they're like, honey, you went to the wrong one. We're just Italians. We're not like, we didn't learn the language through this meetup. Actually, this is a great block because so this is the market, and then I lived over here.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm actually around the corner from the first Trapezzino, which I can't pronounce very well. And then over here is the Roma Club Testaccio. This is one of the real last neighborhoods. And yes, it's become a little touristy. There are like little groups that go into the market, but still also local people that go there. I knew I wanted to live here. And it is quite expensive, but for me, it's like the quality of life is more important, but also it's probably just as much money as if I lived somewhere else and paid less in rent, but then had to take a cab everywhere or a car, which I can't drive here. Wait, what time is it? Because now, hopefully, yeah, because around 4, the stores around the Testaccio market open up, and so some of the old people kind of just hang out in the square waiting for the shops to reopen. So this is my kind of neighborhood. I really like it. Everyone knows each other. That's why it's very hard to get an apartment here. And
so how did you find your apartment? Through word of mouth? Your friends?
No. So this is my second time living here, but you remember this story, right? I was living here before the pandemic, and then I liked the apartment, but it was like in a basement, so there was no light, and it just wasn't the best. And I knew like, okay, now I could find some place that, through local word of mouth. And then they introduced me through my cafe. And then the realtor, if you want to call him that, he lost my number after 6 weeks communicating, but I had already given my notice, so I was homeless. And I found out right before the holidays, which, as you know, start like December 8th. Then at the same time, like things were hitting the fan with COVID. So it's like, uh-oh, what's going on? So I was trying desperately to find an apartment, but then I didn't. And then I had no idea Italy shut down. I was in a B&B without a television. So I was basically homeless until last year for like 2.5 years.
So how much did you pay rent?
Oh, I pay too much. Right now everything went up because of the condos and then the electricity. So I'm paying over $1,000, but that's not even, I know.
How big is it?
It's a 1-bedroom, but it's actually, I think it's still under market like for the price. So I've been looking around and I think the prices are like 13, 14, 15, because again, it's like a very closed neighborhood. Not a lot of people leave, so the apartments are very scarce. And then I guess like it is becoming a little bit of a tourist destination. So there are like a few B&Bs here, but they've done a really good job of trying to preserve it. But anyway, I just love this neighborhood. Everyone is very friendly. It feels like you're like in a square in the 1950s of like Sicily or something.
So even without Italian, you still manage to socialize with the locals, and is that because they will speak English, or do you just have a knack of communicating with your hands?
No. I mean, okay, so I could get by in speaking Italian. In this period, no, because I just came off of a very long period of not speaking any Italian. but I like the first round of me living in Testaccio, I would like hang out. I would hang out in the square. There's like a great wine bar. I made friends with the locals. There was another restaurant. I went shopping. I did my little office stuff from this cafe, and then of course the restaurant. So like I am a huge lover of food, and I like this is like the Quinto Corto, full capital of Rome.
Your love of food and everything has actually, you've been creating a job out of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. That's one of the realtors that knows me. He's like, oh, she hasn't been around in a while. She must have found a place. He'll be seeing me soon. Wait, let's go over here. Wait, what were we saying? Oh, the food.
You had to invent your own job.
Okay, yes. So that was the question from that I kind of, because I go on tangents, as if you've noticed. Like I just like start talking and I go in one direction. I never really fully circle back. But so when I came here, I had no idea what I wanted to do at all. So I took like what I call an unpaid sabbatical, but I had the money to like save, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have a budget and do this. But I really like knew that I needed to take time and wash the last job off and like just feel what I wanted to do. Like what do I want to do with my life? Like, is it even a career? Do I just want like a simple job? Like I don't really need a career. Not everyone does. So I was like, I'm going to take like 3 months, and then I think because I had to come back every 90 days, so I didn't have a visa at the time, and I wasn't a citizen at the time, which I did become through my great grandparents.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you managed to get your Italian citizenship.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of people's dream, isn't it, these days? It seems to be, at least from what I'm hearing and seeing and reading. So,
I mean, yeah, that's the one thing I did. I successfully.
So how do you do that? You were entitled to that because your grandparents.
Great.
Your great grandparents.
Apparently that's it. I think after that you can't even get it anymore.
Well, that's long enough, isn't it? That's great.
I like barely made
you're
it.
A full-blown Italian citizen now.
I know.
So you don't have to worry about these visas and going backwards and forwards every 90 days, which must be a real hassle.
I think actually that was the hardest part, because like deciding to move here was hard, and then when I moved here, or like weeks before, I was like, this is pretty easy. And then when I came here, I think you were one of the people I met, but I had such oh my God, I'm meeting all these like amazing people, and just boom, boom, boom. Like my mom's like, how do you have plans every day this week? Like you didn't know anybody here. In fact, my first day here, I don't know if I told you this. So I didn't even find my B&B. My best friend John did, and it was 2 brothers, actually one Italian Roman guy who wasn't there, so his brother had to do the check-in for him, and so he was there, Daniele, my first friend in Rome, and we were just like talking and talking. He's so nice. He was dating an American girl at the time, and he's like, I'm just going to lunch with my other friend Emiliano. Do you want to come with me? So I was just like, all right, hold on, let me just call my mom and say I got in, and then like, there's Simone. There's one of the regulars. So I was like, all right, Mom, I think I just made my first 2 friends here. So I just had lunch with 2 Italian guys my first day within 2 hours. So from then it was just made the right decision. Yeah.
How do you make a living?
I found my way kind of by accident. So it was like I had time to like make connections, and they were genuine connections, and then it wasn't with a motive. The other thing I forgot to mention is like I promised myself I would never be motivated by money ever again when I left my career. I will not stay in something where I have to forfeit ideals or principles or my life or dinner or lunch. Like I have to eat both every day, or feeding my cat, or going to a wedding, or hanging out with my mom. I was like, I'm never going to be choosing work over that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I wanted to come to Italy, and I needed to come. I was resetting my life. So I knew, like, there's, stereotypes of Italy, like the dolce far niente, the dolce vita, but I feel like a lot of people, they interpret that in a negative way, meaning like they don't like to work or they're lazy. And I'm like, no, it's they work hard, but like that's it. They don't, like, there's people that have careers, but it's not the norm, and it's not expected of you to work to the bone. the motto de dire is work to live versus live to work. And so you're enjoying life every day. You're not waiting for the retirement age, which in America is almost like the death rate now, right? It's almost within the same 5 years. So 10 vacation days and then that, I'm like, no, I want to be able to do some slow living and enjoy the moments, because that's when the life happens, in these moments. So anyway, when I came here, I knew I came for the right reasons for that, because this is what that country is about. But they continue to teach life lessons, like for when I went to the bank and they closed and things like that. Like the fact they're just walking around for no reason. That's called passeggiata here. In New York, I would be like, what are you doing? So it forced me to slow down even more, which is what I think I needed to do. What I'm doing now is like, it was an organic situation, because I became friends with the bar community, mainly because I love bars, and I feel like that's like the soul of a neighborhood. It's like also when I worked in advertising and I came home at midnight, I didn't want to go to bed. So I went to my neighborhood watering hole and I had a conversation. I had some human interaction. So when I moved here, I was like, I need to have that and find my bar. But also I need to know where all the best bars are and all the pizza stuff and all the best carbonara in this neighborhood. And so I explored the city, which I would have done in New York all the time and as a traveler, but I needed to accelerate it, because when I came back to New York, one of the first times going back and forth, I didn't know any of the places anymore. I was homeless for like the last year, but like this is the first time I felt like I don't have a home, because I don't know where to get aperitivo or something. Like, so that turned into my adoration and love of the bars, and then these establishments, which became like, oh, I would go to dinner here like once every 2 weeks. And then they became like my home away from home, some of them more than others. And then also because the cocktail scene it was like kind of crescendere back then. And the last 7 years has been crazy, which is ironically how long I've been here.
Until you made me realize that cocktails are now a thing in Rome. I would never have thought.
Yeah.
It has grown so much.
Yeah, mainly because there were no cocktail bars here. Like they didn't exist.
No.
You know,
So
it's a new thing.
created a niche.
I
You're
guess.
quite an influencer as well, aren't you? You get invited to things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Press.
The word influencer is other.
No,
I know, but that's what we
Press.
call it. Yeah.
Conferences and
For me, it's like an honor, because I'm like, wow. But sometimes I get invited to things just because I'm very enthusiastic and I know the bar people. I'm already there. Or if we go somewhere, I'm like, oh my God, the bar manager from this one is this one. And it's a very close-knit community. So anything I could do, because I'm like their biggest cheerleader. So it just ended up being kind of like a love fest that wasn't motivated by anything. It wasn't like I was going to the bars to get liked. I was just going to the bars and only photographing myself with them during COVID, just make it look like it's okay to go in with your mask to help them. So like started in the opposite way, because a lot of people are, you know, the bars love you because you do a lot for them. I was like, no, I love them. They love me as a client. And then we became friends, but it's also like a love fest going on that is not for any other reason. And then, yeah, maybe I do a post and then people like it. And then other people that are in the industry that write about it, they look at it, and then that's an added value. But I don't get paid for it. So it's just really a pure passion project. So it's like, and also to get the word out on the great Italian bartenders and bars here. So who are my friends.
you know everyone. I mean, the amount of people you know is incredible, and the amount of things you've discovered and you know is incredible as well, because you know more about Rome probably than I do.
Well,
And
I had a lot more free time in the beginning. That's the other thing. I didn't come here with a job. I was like sitting around, like journaling, which I was like, oh my God, I'm just taking a walk. This is scandalous. Like I don't have a meeting and I'm not eating lunch at my desk. It was wonderful. But I don't know. I felt like I needed to make connections, but also it's very easy to make connections here. You just sit on a bench and you look somewhat approachable, and you're open to talking, and an Italian will talk to you for hours.
that's one of the things I love about it.
Yeah.
The human interaction.
Yeah.
They're just really, really friendly.
I mean, it's just like something that doesn't exist in a lot of places. Definitely not in a lot of the major cities. And I know like not in all cities of Italy does this exist, but it's it's just like a way of life that's dying, and I guess I wanted to come back and hold on to it until the flame goes out. I don't want to say it's easier to work illegally, but it's not easy to open up anything here. And in fact, like the Italian bureaucracy is like an issue. But I wanted to open something up in Italy, and so I have my Partita IVA as a consultant, and I basically opened up my own company of one 3 months before COVID, and it was great timing because it was a travel service. So it's like, and that was another thing that came out of like just, I guess, how do you say, like an organic flow of things, because I helped a few boutique agencies, like tour companies, and then I fell in love with aperitivo literally my first day here at Freni Infusione, which is my home, thanks to the two Roman guys. And so basically I wanted to just spread the awareness of aperitivo, because it's basically like what they think that a happy hour is in America, but it's not. It's like so much more, and it's a really healthy, beautiful transition from like work to play or home and whatever. And it's just like a social ritual. It's a meal. It's like one of the meals. But also it's like teaching you how to drink properly in a way. It's like low ABV, drinks that actually stimulate your appetite. So I was like so in love with this idea. I wanted to create a tour for the guy that I was working for, and I hope he watches this, and he didn't want to do it. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll put on Airbnb experiences. And then through there, I like saw other things that weren't real. And it was like, oh, a painting class in a studio apartment with an artist in Italy. And I was like, this guy is not Italian. He's from Canada, and it's a studio apartment. It's not an artist studio, and no one's Italian, and no one's an artist. And so I basically, now you're making me remember the reason behind my Davvero Rome was to find the real version of everything. So I spent like a few weeks. I reached out to everyone in Rome, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but like I just want to create a list of real authentic experiences given by locals or Italians, and then just recommend them to my clients. But I didn't have clients. I was like, I'll just tell them when I talk to them. But in the back of my head, I was like, maybe I should do these itineraries. And so it was my clients from an Airbnb tour, like the aperitivo tour, that convinced me, actually like 5 of them, like you have to do the itinerary planning, because like you sent us to Naples, you were talking to us, by the time we saw you like 3 days later, we felt like you were like, our local advisor or something. So I did the website with their help. And then I had 3 clients just past the parole, and then one of them came, and then the other 2 never did, because then the country shut down. So then I pivoted a little bit, and my Davvero Rome became kind of a blog, because I did some writing for the Culture Trip, which has now completely changed their format. They're not doing content anymore. And then Roaming Magazine. So basically, just to keep myself alive and relevant and also help the businesses, I just made Davvero Rome a blog, like for the interim, thinking it was going to be 2 weeks and that it was 2 years. But because of my help, and because maybe I was the only American allowed to stay here that wasn't Italian, because I was Italian by my passport, I like kind of fell into the sector, I guess, of the writing and the influencers. And so from there, when travel was allowed again, I was like, hey, I gotta like start my business again. And no one knew what I was doing, because I really didn't do it for more than 2 seconds. So anyway, what I'm trying to do is create itineraries, but introduce people and like connect them to real people. Like, I'm not Italian, I'll never be. I'm very passionate about a lot of things. Like, I could talk about cocktails, bars, some food history with Rome, but like, people don't come to Italy to have an experience with me. It's like I'm the conduit. Like, I want to bring people together and then just see what happens. So
you're going to expand?
Oh yeah, so that was the other idea. I wanted to expand 5 years ago, had we been able to move. So I always Rome is great, but it was never the end game, because it's a city. It's like I left New York City. I'm not going to go to another city that's just as crazy and noisy. So I've already made connections thanks to COVID, because I was homeless. So I basically went around, but that was actually thanks to my bar friends. Okay, that's a cute story.
Since November 7th. I won't tell you my whole life story, but the past is never where you left it. When you come back, everything is so sad.
It's changed.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how it was then, but
Well, I've
But
been living here since 1980, so I've
longer
seen the
than-
evolution
yeah.
of the whole.
So I said, rather than standing here and being rude, I'm fine now, but I was sick for 4 years, and our goal was to come back and live here. But it's very different.
but it's still better than the rest of the neighborhoods of Rome in the city center, I think.
Is it?
Have you been outside of the city center?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to live in San Giovanni.
Uh-huh. Maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
Everything,
You live in this area?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been here in years, since the 80s, but I actually like it. But maybe it's because right now we're staying in Prati, which I feel is kind of like, there's a lot of people and a lot of traffic, but there's no spirit.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of offices there,
That's
probably.
probably, yeah.
You should try to go, it's far, but you should try to go to Centro Celle. It's like a half hour by car.
Somewhere with a bit of like community.
Pigneto,
Even.
even
Or Centro Celle.
Centocelle. But don't you find that's like everywhere? I mean,
Yeah.
it's never going to stay the same as it was 40 years ago.
No, of course not.
Was that 40 years ago? Yeah.
But I've been visiting ever since. I'm
Yeah.
retired now, but I was a flight attendant for 20 years. And so I got to visit every year, and I could see the changes happening. And I just in my head still thought I'd like to live here.
Yeah.
But in a month here, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how difficult it is to do this. And I forgot how difficult it is.
Well,
to
it's
do
same
that.
for me when I go back to England. It's
Yeah.
never how I imagined it was. And I even tried that for a brief period, and
Yeah.
it was
Well, my
just so
home
different.
is Ireland. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to Ireland because I lived there until I was 20 and I
Yeah.
knew. But I thought I'd want to retire here. But
Well, you don't have to be in Rome. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many authentic places outside Rome.
Yeah,
There's loads of different villages
that's true. That's
and
true.
small towns.
So I'll have a look at Pigneto and Centocelle.
Centocelle. You can
Okay.
get there on the line C Metro
Okay.
from San Giovanni. You know how to get to San Giovanni,
do,
right?
yeah.
So you can get there.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
easy.
Sorry for
Bye.
interrupting.
Thank you.
This is a cute story. So it's like, and it started from a place of just genuine love for each other. So I'm friendly with a lot of bartenders, but I had really 3 real friends that were bartenders. And with closing of Italy for COVID, everyone left like overnight. So we didn't get to say goodbye to anybody. So basically we were really sad. So it's like the minute we're allowed to move, I'm going to go where you guys are. Because I'm homeless too, so it's like I have to leave eventually, and luckily I got all my things into storage 3 days before it closed down. So I visited my 3 friends, but then before I did it, I was like, all right, how can I visit these 3 areas all in Tuscany? So I was at a bar and like we were doing a little map, and so our mutual friend was saying, oh, you can visit Didi here, this and this, and then go here. So we posted as a joke like Lauren's bar tour of Italy. And I received messages from bars and bartenders I knew and then I didn't know, and they were like, "Are you going to come here? Are you coming here? We'll pick you up from the train station. You could stay with us." And I'm like, "That's crazy. I can't do this. Like, I don't like." And so they were like, "But why not? You don't have a job, so make the most of it." So I traveled for 2.5 months to all of Italy, and I just stayed with bartenders, or they helped find me a really cheap place because no one was at the B&Bs. And it was just really beautiful because it started from an intention of I just wanted to see my friends, and then the bartenders in return they were like, "You could stay with us." And I was just like, it was beautiful. I was like, oh my god, why? Just because I was helping them, they wanted to help me. So I actually did that for 2 years in a row, and I went to like really beautiful places and allowed me to see the far corners of Italy that I wouldn't have been able to see. So, but the Italians adopt you, and then that's it. It's just very beautiful.
Do they speak English?
Oh, all the bartenders do. Also working in tourism, and then I do some other odd jobs just to help pay for my pizza and pasta. I work in English, and I speak in English. I write in English, and I read in English. And then when I'm not doing any of that, I'm alone, so I don't have a roommate. I'm not speaking any language. And the point that I have to make now is like to exit my apartment and hang out here and talk to people. So that's how you learn Italian, just by living it.
So where are we here?
So we're in Piazza Testaccio, and this is really interesting because when I first came to Italy, or even before, first of all, the piazza literally translates to square. I just assumed that piazza was where a famous monument or statue was. So all I had seen was Piazza Navona, Piazza del Popolo, Piazza, all these piazzas with famous things. But the piazza is like the people's square. It's like the urban playground or backyard of a neighborhood. It's common space for a quartiere. So this is like a really residential square. I mean, yes, tourists do come in here. I bring my clients here in a very specific way, but I live here, so it's okay. But this is a very unique one. Some squares have like pop-up farmers markets or they have stalls. The one in Trastevere is really cute. This one is left alone. We have another one that's like a block away, which is more of a playground, and then we have a big market. If you don't have the services for food or fresh vegetables from the farmers markets and whatnot, then they have to do a pop-up location somewhere else, and all the neighborhoods kind of have these.
Because they don't have gardens, obviously.
Yeah.
So this is where
This
people
is
just
their
come to get some fresh air, I presume.
This one's really unique because they actually have tables and chairs. And so we have two macellerias, which is one of my favorite words, butchers. This is also my favorite time of day because all the businesses are opening back up. So you'll see a lot of, the locals just waiting. And behind me is a great enoteca. People are aware of this, but it's still really local. The same with the market. But there was one time that somebody did do a tour here, and I got very upset because they interrupted kids playing soccer. So I was like on the phone with my mom, I think I was there, and she just like came in and like interrupted. It was like a game of 10 people. Like you couldn't have missed this game. And she just came with like her flag, and I'm like, no, she didn't do that. So I was like, Mom, I gotta go. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, nothing, I'll be good. And I just walked over to her and she's like, are you on the tour? I was like, no, but I just wanted to see which tour company this was. So I wrote an email to them and I said, like, listen, these people will never say this, so I'm going to say it. There's a way to do something and a way not to do it. This is beautiful. You have to show people this in a very respectful way. Just walk through, go over there, but you're a tour operator, walked through these kids playing soccer. It's like you're going to their backyard. You can't exploit these communities. You should ask permission. So in fact, when I do anything, I always ask the place's permission. And I'm like, I'm never going to come during, your high peak hours. I'll come when you don't have customers. I don't want to ruin the clientele. I don't want them to know like people are coming through here. And anyway, so they wrote back and they were like, we'll think about changing it. And they never came back because I came back every day. And they thanked me. The people of Testaccio, like, you did that for us? I was like, yeah. It's a beautiful thing to see, but you have to preserve things. And that's why what I'm trying to do with the Vero Rome, hopefully soon to be the Vero Italy, is do sustainable, responsible, respectful travel, but also like slow tourism, and maybe go to areas that are not overrun by tourists. So there's a better exchange, but also more positive and respectful exchange where they're actually going to be able to interact in a good way, because traveling is about that, I think.
Yeah, you get a look at what real things are. It's not just this, Disneyland.
Yeah, it's like come in and out. I live here and I do things from the heart. I am really respectful of them. And I think doing that in that way earns their respect. And so it's important. Like, to give advice is really hard because I really don't think that I've done anything so far. I know I've done some things, maybe, but I don't consider myself like, oh, I'm a success story. But I don't regret moving here at all. Maybe the only thing I would have regretted was like not finding a nicer location to quarantine, like maybe with like like nature. But I think you really have to be determined, and also maybe, I don't know, like make connections with the people, because that's the only way to stay anywhere. You could stay somewhere years and never be immersed into the culture or the community or the country, So I know a lot of expats that come in and out that just go to like an Irish pub all the time. It's like, why did you even come here? Do you want to even adopt a new way of living or make friends with Italians and things like that? So I would say try to become one with your community because it's really important. They're very community based, very communal society, and other things that maybe for other cultures, specifically like the United States, it's like a lot of things that the Italian culture does are misinterpreted in a negative way with Americans. So, for example, dining alone is very uncommon here, right? But in New York, it's not. So a lot of people were like, they're giving me looks, eating alone, looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, but it's just not part of their culture. So like they'll try to put you with somebody else. And I just think that's a very beautiful thing. I don't know, just like try to understand the culture before you make a negative, like, yeah, because it's like, it's just like, it's a misinterpretation or a miscommunication because like they're not meaning it that way. Like, for example, the whistling. I was like, you whistle at somebody, like, come here. That could get you slapped in the face in New York. Like, you don't do that, but here it's not as bad. So it's like just different cultural things. So just try to maybe ask around. Again, make a local connection so that you could ask certain questions. I don't know. If you really want to stay here, like you have to be friends or make connections with local people.
That's the whole point of being here, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, why would you not want to know your neighborhood macelleria? Like, I don't even cook and they both know me. Oh, so the cutest part was I hadn't been here for 2.5 years during the pandemic. And I went to the forno over here, maybe once a week for like a few months. They were like, where have you been? Like 2 years later, I'm like, wow, you have to make an effort.
Well, this is amazing. Lauren is friends with Simone, who is the owner of Cecchino.
The sixth generation.
The sixth generation, because you're from 1887. Gracious. And he's kindly offered to let us have a look around. So let's go in.
Come in.
Salve, buongiorno. Oh, so we're just at the end of the service today. Food here is amazing. It's typical Roman cuisine. I've eaten here a few times.
Hello.
Hello. You are the fifth generation. Francesco.
And here they are the starter generation. Lorenzo and Clorinda Ferminia, who invent the recipe of the oxtail, and Francesco said Checchino.
Okay, well, I've eaten your oxtail and it's amazing. And I've also had your paellada. The first time I ever ate paellada, I was sitting down at that table down there. So, yeah.
Mentioning is they just were awarded the best Corale Vaccinare Macabro Rosso.
Oh, great. Well done. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thanks
We
for
have the document.
Yes. Wow. If you're in Rome, you've got to come and eat here. They're famous enough as it is, but we recommend it as well.
Thank you very much.
And the place is really particular because we're in Monte dei Cocci. So this whole hill was built on ancient Roman amphoras. Is that right? Yeah.
If you want, we can see by the inside.
Lovely. Really great. So thanks so much.
Please.
Privilege to come through such a special kitchen as well.
Pay attention to the steps.
Yeah.
You smell the coda?
Yeah, I can smell the coda. Wow, so this is now the wine cellar.
Yeah, this is the cave in which everything was started back in 1870, in reality. Because between 1870 and 1887 was always our family, but this place was not a restaurant, it was an osteria.
Oh, okay.
So a place in which you're supposed to go there just to drink. And then in 1887, they transformed the establishment in an osteria with the kitchen, so kind of the prototype of a restaurant.
Tell us a little bit about these amphora pieces that we can see in the walls.
Basically, Testaccio technically is not the name of the district, it's the name of the hill, because it comes from the Latin word testaccio. That means the place made of clay, basically. Because near here, back in the days, there was the port of the river, because back in the days, the Tiber was fully navigable. So whatever used to arrive in Austria, it's a seaport of Rome, used to bring it directly in the center through the river. On the alimentary point of view, they used to transport mainly wine, oil, and garum inside the amphoras. The garum is kind of the ancestor of the colatura di alice. Because the amphoras was made in clay, so it was a porous material, during the trip to arriving Rome, the amphoras takes all the aromas like a sponge of what was inside. When they get empty, the amphoras, for the transporters was much more economical to trash the amphora instead of clean it, because the tax to bring it back was simply too expensive. So nothing is changed, we can say, in 2000 years. And so while they trash it, they had to make it in an ordinary way. And so time by time, they built this kind of a hill that is divided inside also in terms of type of pieces. On a side there is just the belly, on the other side there is just the neck, on the other one there is just the arms of the amphoras. And because of this, and because the topic that there's nothing that glue a pieces to the other, the air can pass by the hill, and this gives us a constant temperature in the cellar, always 10 degrees on the floor for a maximum of 16 on top, with just 1 degrees of difference between summer and winter without any kind of climatization.
The perfect wine cellar.
Yeah.
And there's some
We used
more
to
in
say
there.
that they built the hill to make us the cellar. It was already in
Yeah.
contact.
Okay. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you.
Hot.
Yeah, because
It's colder in the
Costa.
summer. But why is it colder in the summer?
Because here is always between 10 to 16. So the average is like 12, 11.
Yeah, so if you're outside and it's 40 degrees, you're still going to be at 16 in
never
here.
going to change the temperature
No,
here.
it's constant.
Just
Wow.
1 degrees between summer and winter.
Because
That's
I
the
wanted to live down here when I was homeless. I was like,
Yeah, but in June it's 45 outside,
Yeah,
and here is 12. So you have 30 degrees of difference. In winter outside is 8, inside is 10, so here is more warm.
by the way, Simone, the fact that he's here and I just texted him when you texted me, this is like a rare event because like you're traveling. He's like a brand ambassador for rum. And he's
Yeah,
also a bartender.
between September and November, it's more the time that I'm making the pinball around Europe. The time that I leave.
Okay, well, how lucky is that
I know.
then?
But from December, it's easy. I'm here.
So this is the reason I'm meeting up with Lauren today. It's because she has these types of contact. That's why she is the
She's
great
the girl.
person to know and to be in touch with. Thanks so much for letting us come down
Thank
here.
you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I was also saying, besides the fact that it was a pure, not a coincidence, but I was friends with Simone before I even knew he had this restaurant in the family. He's also one of the best bartenders here, and there's a secret bar upstairs. So if you love the music, that's where it's coming from.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Secret bar. We're going to get to see the secret bar as well. Wow.
And
Oh, yes, I've seen those butterflies in your posts.
yeah. So this is the beautiful bar, and if you've noticed the artwork on here,
Yeah.
he's done by Simone. He's an artist in every way.
You're an artist as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. He did that, and also you see a lot of good rum because he's the brand ambassador. And it's just a beautiful bar. He makes one of the best martinis. Like people have said that.
Someone used to say this.
My clients are like, that was the best martini we've ever had, and they went other places. And he also has a great creative cocktail menu right now. I think is it still the same?
Yeah, change it possibly next year.
Okay, good. So
Yeah, but we
just
have a
say
couple
when
of
it's-
ideas in mind, but it's never easy. But we will still remain focused on the perfumery.
So basically, Simone has a friend, Diego, and they've been collaborating for like 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe before COVID, on how to make a drink based on the scent or vice versa. So they literally collaborated to make this drinkless menu based on like the 5 scents.
Yeah, basically is
There's like 5
in
scents.
perfumery there is a way to describe
Yeah.
a perfume that is called the pyramids.
Yeah.
Pyramids, thank
That
you.
is divided in 3 parts:
Mm-hmm.
the head note, the heart notes, and the bottom note. And so, cause the 90% of the, let's say, ingredient of perfumery comes from edible things, we basically apply the same way of reasoning about a scent
Right.
on a drink. And also the menu is divided by this. So there is the chapter of the head in which everything is quite citrusy, the head more flowery or fruity, the bottom more smoky or toasted, and basically work on the structure of a drink like a nose of perfumery, in a way, work on perfumes.
Well, that's a great concept. I can
A little
totally
bit
get
different
that.
for the
Yeah.
habits, at least.
I love perfumes and essential oils, and I'm a sommelier.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, but you know, it's also more easy for the customers, also because you can be in a cocktail bar, but not be a cocktail geek, and it's also more easy to you to get oriented in the menus, because when you do the first is more citric, the second more flowery, the third more smoky. If you like citric drink, you know that you have your page, and you're just reasoning on 4 or 5 drinks that more or less got the similar hint or similar ingredients, so it's more easy to read.
Well, I hope to come back soon then in the evening one time. We have to come again.
It's a really exclusive place. Very, very
Right.
exclusive. It's
Okay.
secret.
You are the girl. You are the girl. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Bye. Arrivederci.